Oh, so what we are going to be working on today is a continuation of the Visual Studio Code extension that I've been working on. So this extension has a singular purpose, and that is really to be able to grab the contents from the clipboard, take those contents, save it to a file or either to a temporary byte stream, and then upload that to Azure Storage. Now, the reason I want to use this is for when I'm writing blog posts or I'm writing documentation. I want that flow to be as easy as possible. I want to grab the screenshot, put it where I want it to be, and then continue on, rather than having to jump through hoops in order to get it to work. Now, we've got the first part of that working, which is the grabbing the contents from the clipboard and saving it to a file. We've shown that working in previous videos. Now, what we did in this time slot last week was we tried to merge some pull requests, and what we found was that the build was failing. Now, it was failing, as you can see here in the history, for quite a while. And then we did some debugging and we tried to figure out what was going on, and ultimately we didn't figure that out. So what we ended up doing was just rebuilding it again later in the day, and it ended up working. So that's where this green came from. The red text came from a subsequent pull request that came into the project. So in the subsequent pull request, which was to bump the types from 11.9.6 of Node to 11.10.5, that's actually causing the pull request to fail the build. So we're going to look into that. The first thing that I wanted to mention, though, was that I've literally, today, I have just signed up to the .NET Foundation. Now, I wanted to mention that, not because it's important that I did it, but it's reasonably important that I think that anyone who's interested in anything to do with .NET, it should be something to be a part of. So if I find my tweet here, then what you'll find is that there's a link out to the .NET Foundation website with information about why you would want to become a member of the .NET Foundation. Now, the reason behind the primary reason for it just now is that the .NET Foundation is changing from a board of directors that have only 3 seats up to including much more seats, and those seats are going to be based on an election. So if you are a member of the .NET Foundation, then you will be able to vote on the people that have currently put themselves forward for that. So if we go and have a look at here, and membership, I think it is, then where is it I can find the current members? It's election. Let's find it here. Election.net Foundation.org. Is that where I am? Yes. So what you'll see is that there are already a number of people, some well known in the .NET community, that have already put themselves forward to be a board member. And the idea is that the members of the foundation will then be able to vote on who they want to represent them in the board of directors. So definitely something to get involved in. One thing that I should mention is that if you want to apply, then there is a cost associated with it, and you'll see that on so they're using Open Collective to raise those funds or to collect those funds, and you'll see here that it's a $100 a year contribution. Now, you can opt out of that payment, and there's details of that when you click through to the membership area, but definitely I wouldn't let the dollar amount put you off, because there are ways of either reducing that or opting out completely. So definitely keep that in mind, and like I said, I encourage you to join. So since I've joined this morning, there's been quite a few more added in, so that's good. The good thing about Open Collective is that it's all in the open. It's literally done in the open, and you can see all the transactions that have gone in, what the money's been spent on, that sort of thing. So like I said, here was me this morning, and since then there's a good 10 or 20 added in. So that's all for the good. Okay, so that's the first thing I wanted to mention. The second thing that I wanted to look at was the one thing that I didn't do last week, which is what I meant to do, was to add Mergify into that repository. So that Mergify, the way I use Mergify is for it to close off any merged branches. So any branches that have been on my repository, that have been created on my repository, and if they've been merged into the main branch, they can just automatically be deleted. There's no need to keep them around. So currently my Mergify setup, so it's just mergify.io. I've got a few repositories in here, but I don't have the new one that we've been working on. So if I go into edit repository list, I should be able to come down here and select the clip img VSCode repository, and that will be slotted in there, and then I can hit save. Now I already have a Mergify YAML file, which is what controls how Mergify operates on this repository. But what I needed to do was to add it into the system so that Mergify then knows about it. So having done that, I should be able to refresh this list, and we should hopefully see clip img appearing in here, which it does, and then it's set up, installed, and configured. So that part is done now. So that was one thing that was left over from the previous stream. So the thing that I'm interested in looking at is why this pull request is failing. So this was a pull request that dependabot created on our behalf, which was to bump one of the dependencies. And as a result of that, the build failed. So I want to pull this pull request down locally and have a look at why it's failing. So if we go into here and cd into my GitHub repository, and then here, and then under clip img, let's just make sure that I've got the latest. So I'll fetch the latest code, which I don't. So then we'll let's just check that I'm on the right branch. Git branch. I am. So let's just git fetch. Oh, we did that. Git rebase origin develop. Oh, it was already there. So it must have just been a branch. Okay, it's fine. So instead, I want to git fetch from origin the pull request that is open, which is 18, and grab the head of that and check that out to a branch called PR18, and then I can check out PR18. Why is that not letting me? Did it create the branch? It did. So git check out PR18. In this scenario, yes, you're right. So the comment there from the chat room is that I could just check it out directly. Now that's absolutely true. The way that dependabot works. So if we go back up here and look at dependabot. Oh, if we look at dependabot, then dependabot actually created that branch for us. So it created it in our own repository, and it creates a pull request from that branch into the target branch. So I absolutely could have checked that out directly. The reason that I do it with this nomenclature is that that's not always the case. So a pull request could come from another fork, and they've submitted the pull request across a fork. So I tend to use this. It took me a long time to get this syntax in my head so that it's under my fingers. So I pretty much use it for everything now. So ultimately, it's the same thing for what we're doing here. It's just that this is the way that I'm used to doing it. So I kind of stick with it. So with that, I should be on the PR18 branch. So what I want to do is I want to run the build locally to see if I'm also getting a failure. And if it is, then we need to look into why it's causing a failure. Because obviously I can't do the pull request without breaking the build. I don't want to do that. So let's try and fix it. And then if there is something to be fixed, we can get that added. Well, let's just see where we get to. Because the step that it failed on in the app.bear build is when it is packaging the extension. So during the package extension step, it fails with on the compilation step. So is that also happening here? Let's find out. It did. Okay. So this gets us one step closer to knowing what's going on. A complete log of this run can be found in there, so we may go to there and have a look. But the step that failed is the TSC step. So let's maybe just try running that directly as well to see if it resolves any additional log. It is. So this is so here we're seeing the actual problems. So what this is telling me is based on the change that was suggested. So if we go back up to our pull requests, then what has been suggested is a change of the type definitions for node from there to there. So in between here, something has changed to the point that those current code needs to be modified. So if we go and have a look in the actual code and see what's going on here. So here we're saying that the clipboard service .ts has things that could be possibly null. So we need to check those before actually using them. So to date, this code hasn't been causing a problem. So these objects obviously aren't null, but since there is a possibility that they're null, we should probably handle that in code and be a little bit smarter about that. So that's in, which sort of service did I say that was in? That's in the clipboard service. So that would be in our source package and then in here. So what I'm interested to see is whether we actually get those errors in here. I'm curious as to why they're not appearing. There we are. Okay. So now they're actually being called out here directly. So what it's saying is the same error message that we're getting from the command line, object is possibly null, and then it doesn't actually have any suggestions on how to correct those. So the object that could be null is PowerShell, I'm guessing, or is it the standard out? It must be the standard out that could be null. So I guess what we should do is say if PowerShell dot standard out, then we can go in and do something. Otherwise, we don't do anything. And why did that? It's there. Oh, so the bracket needs to be on this side of that one. Okay. And I'm guessing that one's a semicolon as well. And that one's not necessary. Yes, absolutely, Kim. The bracket was in the wrong place. So this is kind of a rudimentary check. And in this case, where are we when we're doing this? We are get contents and save to file. So we should probably error out with something here. So else, let's write a message, context dot message service dot show error. And we'll just say something like unable to access standard out of PowerShell command. So that will just give us some indication that something went wrong. If we do that, then it's going to be a similar check on here. So this clipboard service is all about shelling out to PowerShell or to AppleScript or to Bash, depending on what operating system we're on, and grabbing the contents from the command line, grabbing the contents from the clipboard. So the fix in each of these is going to be the same. So whatever we were before, which was sort of up here, let's copy this latter part, which is going to be here. Copy, copy, copy. And then go down to here, and we'll say if a script dot standard out. Then we can do this, and then let's tab that over a bit, and then delete that and paste what we had on our clipboard. And in this case, it's not the PowerShell one, it's the Apple script. Perfect. Okay, and then the final one should be down here on standard out of. Interesting. Why is that still called a script? We should probably rename that because we're in Linux at this point. So let's see if we can rename that symbol to be bash. Sounds good to me. There we go. And then a final check here that says if bash dot standard out. Then let's go ahead and do some stuff here. Tab that over and then delete that again. And we'll call this the bash command. Okay, so in theory, that should have fixed the build error. So if we run TSC again, so TSC is the TypeScript compiler, so we don't get anything, which is good. And if we go up a level to do the build, we should be able to get a successful build from that, hopefully. And if all that works, we can start talking about the next phase of this extension, which is not going to be as easy as I thought it was going to be, I don't think. And I'll explain for why in a second. Let's just make sure this builds. Package extension was where it was failing before, so let's see if that works, which it did. Okay, cool. So with these changes in play, I can just say build, fix build errors, new type definition for node added some additional checks for null. These weren't handled, so build was failing. Okay, good. Now, the downside of what I said before, which was that the way that I check out that pull request branch here means that I want to make another commit, but I can't submit that back to that PR branch because I haven't checked out the actual branch, so I can't push it to that branch directly. So what I end up doing here is after I do this commit, which I'm going to do here, I'm going to say yes to that. I'm going to do that commit, but I'll merge this directly now into the develop branch. So if I do a git checkout develop, and then I do a git merge of the PR branch, if I can type noffpr18, then I can do a push to develop, git push origin, and then that will include the changes that was in my pull request. But the pull request itself, now, interesting. I wasn't necessarily, I didn't rebase it. So, okay, that's good. I actually didn't think that GitHub was going to follow the change that I did. I was expecting to come back here and have to close this branch manually and provide a link to the commit that I did. But because I didn't rebase it, that wasn't required. So the question in my mind now is, did I need to rebase it? Let's see if it was at the current head of the develop branch, which I think it might have been. Let's just have a quick look in Git extensions. So we're good, actually. So this is the branch that the PR18 branch that I created, and then merge that into develop. So that's all good. There's nothing actually that needs to be done there. Typically, I like to have a branch coming directly off of the main branch, and then back in once all the work's finished. So I typically always do a rebase, and what you end up with there is a reasonably clean history, so you can see where things were added into the develop branch. So that's all good. So that PR is complete. So the only thing that's left here is to change these labels slightly and add that to the upcoming milestone, which is there. Good. So if we go back to pull requests now, there are no open pull requests on this repository now, so we're good. Right. So the reason that this is going to become slightly more complicated, and I don't really know where I'm going to go with it. I was hoping that Matthias might have been on the line in the chat room. I'll maybe just ping him. On the stream, I have an Azure question for you. Let's see if Matthias can maybe jump in. But I'll also ask it here just to see if anybody knows. So if I go over here, so this is my Azure account. So this is my Azure storage. Now I currently have this GEP13 WPStorage is where I store all the images for my blog, right? And this is essentially where I want to be able to put the output from this code extension that we're creating. Now you'll see here that this is named Storage Account Classic. Now that is a little bit concerning because this morning I installed the Azure Storage Explorer into Visual Studio Code, and this is the code that I was hoping to be able to use. It's licensed under MIT, so I was hoping to be able to borrow some of the code that's in that extension to do that one thing that I want to do, which is to push the file up into Azure Storage. Now, so I've added this subscription into this Azure Storage running in VS Code, and what we'll see here is that I've got this function 82 storage account, but I don't, which is this one, but I don't have this GEP13 WP storage. And I suspect it's because it's not showing up there because it's a classic storage account rather than I'm assuming a non-classic, a new version. So what I think I'm going to have to do is what I'm going to want to do at some point is I'm going to want to create a new storage account, and I'm going to want to move everything from the classic one into the new one. Now, that's not impossible. It's just not really what I was hoping to have to do. But let's carry on. So what I want to do is I want to test out. So I'm going to create a new storage account for testing. I'm not going to use this functions one. I'm going to create a new one, and we'll create one specifically for clip img VS Code. That's what we'll call it. And it'll probably tell me that I can only contain letters and numbers, so the hyphen. So let's just call it clip img VS Code, and I'm going to hit enter. Now, select the resource group. Let's create a new one called that. Yes, so I know what it's attached to, and where do I typically put them? I typically put them in North Europe. I think UK South is now closer. So let's call it UK South, and let's see what happens now. So this should give us a new storage account that has the standard types in there, so blob containers, file shares, queues and tables. And where I have stored them in the past, so if I drill down into this GEP13 storage and look at where everything is located, hopefully I'm not giving away anything too sensitive through here. I don't think I am. Storage Explorer Preview is what I want. So I have within the Blob Containers a folder called Get13, and that's where I store all the images for my blog posts. So this is the structure that I'm trying to create from my extension, right? So this is what we're trying to get to. So now over here within that clip image VS Code Blob Containers, it won't have one, but we'll create one, and we'll use the same sort of nomenclature that we've been doing before. And then in here, I'm assuming that I can create an empty text blob. That's not necessarily what we want to do. We want to upload I also installed another thing in here, which was, close those, close all. I also installed another thing, which is the, oh, maybe that's all it was. I was hoping to be able to test the creation of a directory as well, but it doesn't look like I can do that. So let's go over here to the newly created one. So if we go back up to storage accounts, we should have a new one, which is there, that has a container called Get13, which it does. And then in here, let's create a new folder. So let's create a new folder called 2019 as a test, 2019. And then I want to test uploading something. Oh, the directory doesn't exist until something's in there. That's something I've been tripped up with before. Let's create another one. What month are we in? We're in March now, right? So we're March. And let's go to one of the test images that we've been able to get from our extension. So that would be in the GitHub, Get13, and then temp images. No, there's not one there. Okay, so let's go ahead and make one. So we were using Greenshot as a test. So let's just grab something from here and then copy that to the clipboard. If we then run our extension with F5, we should then be able to grab the contents and it should go into that folder. Makes sense. Let's find out. So if we do F1, and it's still called hello, right? Is the command. So we haven't changed that yet. This is a test, and hopefully, boom, then it's put it out to where I had opened, which is there. Okay, good. So now, if we take this and put this up to here as a upload blob, select a file from the C drive, GitHub, Get13, temp images, and test PNG, and go ahead and upload. So that's uploaded, good. So if we go back to VS Code, close this down a second, and then have a look in our Azure. If we refresh this, there we go. So now it's there. Unable to open, please check output for more information. That's fine. It's there. It's there though, at least. So what I want to be able to see is whether I can upload another one from here. So if I can do it from here, it means I can find the code in the extension and then borrow that code in that one specific instance that we want it to be. So I want to upload a block blob. So let's use the same image and see if we can, or let's change its name. So let's copy this copy, paste, and we'll use that one. Enter name, sure, just use that one. And that's put that up to there. So back to Azure Storage. If I then go up a level, right. Okay, good. So that tells me that the code within the Azure Storage Extension is capable of putting the file where I want it to be. So that's good. Now the other test I want to do is to see whether I can put it into a folder. So let's do this again, and let's do upload blob and go here. Let's pick that one again, but we'll put it into 2019/03/ see what that does, because it's saying may include a path. Let's do that. Ooh, I think we are onto something here. There we go. Right. So this is doing exactly what I was hoping it was going to do. The one thing on top of this is that I need to then get the URL back. So if I can get that from here, right? Copy. Maybe not. I thought it was going to copy URL. So ideally, what I then want back in here, when it gets the when it uploads the URL, uploads the image to Azure Storage, what I want to be put into here then is the entire URL within the Markdown syntax that's generated. Okay. So I think we're almost there. So what I need to do, or what we need to do, is figure out how that code works. So the extension that I'm using, if I go back to Visual Studio Code Marketplace, and I search for the Azure Storage extension, which is the one that I've been using. So if I go here and say Azure Storage, then this one is the one that I have installed. So if I go over here to its repository, like I say, it is MIT, so all the code can be borrowed from here, which is good. Now, do I have this one cloned locally? There's a chance that I do. So let's have a look in organizations. This is in Microsoft, right? So no, we don't. So let's go ahead and clone this so that we can reference the code. Microsoft. And then into there, we're going to want to clone this repository. So let's go into that folder on command line. So cd Microsoft. Why is my organizations? Cd organizations Microsoft. And then git clone. There we go. Clone that. And then we can cd into the VS Code Azure Storage. And then let's open that in a code window. And let's see where the code is. So, source. Storage Explorer Launcher. So the way that this works, if we go back to our other instance of VS Code, then we're finished with that one, so we can close that one. One that I'm interested in is this one. So over here, this is a right-click option that we were doing here. So this right-click option was the upload block store. So that's the text of the thing that I'm interested in. So when I'm doing things like this, I find it useful to use that as an entry point to get into the code. So upload block blob is what we're interested in. So let's do a search in here for upload block blob and see what that brings us back. So this is the title that we're interested in, and this is the command that's running. So I suspect that this is the context menus section of the contributors, the command. But then they must have a context menus that then links to that command. Okay, good. That makes sense. So back to here. So this is the thing that we're interested in. So then we need to find this command and find out what it's doing. So let's just try and grab all of that. Copy, and then paste. So it's obviously been used in a few places. So that's on the activation event. So that's all that's doing is telling VS Code that when that command is used, use that as an activation event to run the extension itself. That's where it was defined. That's probably where the context menu is being utilized. And then, what's this one? When, never, command palette. Oh, interesting. So this command itself never appears within the command palette. It's only available as a context menu. You could do that. So that's useful. So what we've got here is where the command is being registered. So it's saying register command there, and then the thing that comes after it is what's actually done. So tree item, block trainer, and then it's got upload block blob command or a function. So we'll maybe go and have a look at that, and we'll have a final look here that says this is the public entry point for their upload block blob. Okay, so this is the code. This is the way it's actually doing stuff. So there'll likely be a lot of stuff in this command that we don't actually want or need. So the thing it's doing here is it's opening a dialog for selecting a file. We don't need that. Then it's doing a name. So we're going to control that. We don't need to provide that. We don't need to ask the end user for that piece of information. So if it's got a blob path, it's doing a check then to see if does blob exist. So that must be reaching out to Azure Storage to see if it's already there. So that we would probably want. So we'll look into that. Then it's saying, what have we got here? Let create child blob tree provider. A tree item for this blob already exists. No need to do anything with the tree, just upload. Okay, so that must be for creating the directory structure. So if I've read that right, it's using the tree data provider to find tree item with a blob ID. Let's read this properly. Let blob ID equal this dot full ID plus blob path. So the blob path is the thing that was passed in. So then it's saying if it's been able to find that tree item for blob already exists, then you can do a direct upload. If not, then it returns if the blob path. So that's all in there, and then the other one is it just a direct upload of it? Is it? It is. Okay. So this is the heart of the code that we want to borrow. So the question is, how much of any of all of this do we need to regurgitate, or does some of it come from a library that we can... Okay, I should have mentioned this at the start of the stream. Once I switch this machine on again, it decided that there was yet another, this is about a recurring theme of this stream, is that it wants to do another update of my Windows. So what you're seeing, just the top of, is restart to install the newest Windows feature update. I'm going to say remind me later, because it's not really a good time at the minute, because it would not really work at this point. So I'm going to say remind me later. So I've seen that Matthias has joined the stream, so I'm going to ask him the question that I asked before to see if I can get an answer. So Matthias, are you listening, first of all? And if you are, if you could write a message in the chat window, that would be good. At least then I know you can hear me and I can ask you the question. While I'm waiting on a response there, what is the tree data provider and where does that come from? So Matthias can hear me, that's good. Tree data provider. I have to see where that comes from in a minute. Okay, Matthias, so the question that I have is, in my Azure account over here, this is where this storage account, get13WPStorage, is where I currently store all of my blobs. So it's all the blobs from my blog posts, all that sort of stuff. Now, currently, this is a storage account classic, right? Now, the problem that I have is that the Azure Storage add-in extension for Visual Studio Code doesn't seem to pick up that classic account. So the question that I really have for you is, first of all, what's the difference between a classic account and a non-classic account? Follow-up question is, should I still be using a classic account? And the third follow-up question is that if I wanted to change the storage account from non-classic or from classic to non-classic, what is the process? So I'm hoping you can answer all of those questions. Because what I'm doing just now is I've created a new storage account just for playing with. But ultimately, like I say, I want to be able to, I want to put it into there. But I can't, or I don't seem to be able to do that with the current code base of the Azure Storage Extension. And I want to use that as a basis for what I'm doing. So I'll leave you to mull that over. And I'm going to go back and try and find out where this tree provider is. Where did I lose my tree provider? Oh, I'm in the wrong code base now. So I'm over here. So over here, there was a upload blob. Is it down the bottom? Does blob exist? So I'm gonna need that does blob exist function. But there was another one that was, why can't I find it? Tree data provider? I think it was called that. It was. So this here, tree data provider, is, so that's from VSCode Extension UI. So I wonder if I can use that. Let's have a look and see what packages they are including. Dependencies. Oh, look at that. There's a VSCode Azure Extension UI. So I may be able to use that. So that's something to look into. So Matthias in the chat room is saying you can't create new classic account. Main difference is a totally new management API. Okay, migration is to create a new account and re-upload. See, I thought you were going to say that. So follow up question. Currently, all the URLs in my blog go to this get13WPStorage account. Is it possible to rename this one, create a new one with the previous name, and then re-upload everything to that new one? If you follow what I'm saying. Because I don't really want to have to go and change all the URLs to be something else. And really, that's not really a migration. That's a manual effort on my part to change from classic to non-classic. It's not bad, but it's not ideal. Let's see what he comes back with there. So, nope, that's why they recommend CDN, because there you can have it. Okay, so this is a, so this storage account currently I don't think is a CDN, but does a CDN have a storage account as its backing? There we go. Okay, so that's fine. Okay, so where in here do I create a CDN? Because I think that is something that I do want. But I'm assuming that's going to cost me more money as well. How do I create a CDN, Matthias? If I go up here, what other options do I get? Basics. create resource CDN. Okay. So that you're telling me that there's a CDN, specifically there's a resource called CDN. So create resource then. CDN. Ooh, okay. CDN, the Azure Content Delivery Network, is designed to send audio, video, images, and other files faster and more reliably. Okay. And I would be billed based on how much is filtered through that CDN? If I go ahead and create then, what does that do? Name. There you go. It would go into this one. Yep. Transaction basis, but very cheap. Okay. So could I create a CDN that has the same name as the URLs that I currently use, and then simply switch out the storage account that is backed by that CDN? Because right now, if I go over to github.com get13/get13, and we look in here for get13 WPStorage, then there's going to be lots of URLs that have this. So this is what the URLs currently look like. Ooh, but that makes things slightly more complicated. So currently, what I was envisioning was that I would simply grab the URL of the file that's uploaded into the storage account. But that URL isn't going to be the URL if I use the CDN now. Keep old storage, upload files, find and replace when done. Okay, I can do that. But, okay, so this one last thought, and then I need to go and do some actual work. One last thought for anybody who wants to chime in. How... I can't even put it into words. So let's go back. So back over here and under storage accounts. Sure. So in this new storage account that I created, we uploaded a couple of test things. So in this blob container, get13, if I click on that and then say copy, when I say copy URL, it gives me the URL directly to that image. So I can go into here and I can say, boom, that's what it is, right? Oh, it wouldn't be found. Oh, I probably need some sort of SAS for there. Have a setting for base URL. CD will change URL. Yeah, exactly. That's what I thought was going to happen. So the tail end of it might be the same. So the tail end of it, let's get a better one that doesn't have. Let's go in here, into here, and grab this one. More copy URL. So that's probably going to fail again because it's not open to everyone, which it needs to be. So what I suspect then is that all of this part would be the CDN at that point. Yes, no, I understand. It's a brand new container. I haven't changed that part of it. So the setting that I would need within my extension would be what is the start of what is your CDN pointed at? And then from there, I can use the tail end of it and stitch it together. So I'd still need to copy the URL, or no, I wouldn't really need to, but I will. Copy the URL once it's uploaded, take the tail end of it, stick it to the configuration value, and stick them together, and everybody's happy. Yes? Does that sound about right? If so, that is for a different day, because we're not doing that today. Today has been more of an exploratory look around to see what we need to do. So I've got a bit of work that I need to do on the back end to do that, and I need to figure out how to create a CDN for the way it's currently set up. and I may need to rename everything so that CDN works the way I want it to. You can use REST API. It's really simple. Well, that's essentially what I'm going to be doing, Matthias. Yes, but I'm going to attempt to not rewrite all that code myself. I'm going to use the Azure Storage Account, Azure Storage Extension, which is already doing all of that work for me, and I'm just going to have it do all the work. You've got 7. I've got 7 minutes. Yes and no. I need to go and get some lunch before doing other stuff, so I'm literally going to run in the house and grab a quick sandwich and then go back to work, as opposed to being sitting here playing, basically. So it's just a put. Well, it's not just a put, Matthias. Well, it is, but it's not. So if we go back and have a look at the code that we were looking at, then there's some more. Probably forgotten where we were. If we go back to here, then there's some handling to say whether or not the blob already exists. There is the upload and the overwriting capabilities, yada yada yada. Let me open this link that you've just sent to me. Blah. Blob upload.cake, blah blah blah. Storage account, storage container, storage key, fine. Lots of joining together of stuff, and then convert to a base 64 string, and then upload of all of that stuff. HTTP client, default headers. So you should just, your URI should always be immutable. So you should just GUID plus extension, as otherwise you'll likely have CDN. Okay, you're going to have to run that one past me again, because those words all individually make sense to me, but I don't understand what you're saying to me. My URLs themselves would be immutable, yes, but your URL should always, yes. Well, each paste should generate a new, correct, yes. So each paste from the clipboard would generate a unique. Well, no, because what I was envisioning was that they would provide, okay, no, it would be unique. And the idea is that I put it into a unique location. So I'm going to put it into 2019 03, and then just a list of all the images that are related to my March blog posts. The part that, as otherwise, you'll likely have CDN caching errors. Because right now, my file names are, let me bring that up. And then I do need to go and get some food. So right now, the way that I currently do things, I go back over here, and I look at the Storage Explorer preview, and I go into here, and I go into here, and I go into 2019, and I go into 01. And so this is the day. So it's segregated down to the day. So then in here, I have a useful name that indicates what the thing is of. Never update a file, just upload new. Yes, no, I wasn't planning on providing an update, but I did think it made sense to make sure that the image didn't, for some reason, already exist. Because, like I say, what I tend to do is have, because if I've understood you correctly, you're suggesting that the file name should just be GUID. Is that what you were suggesting? I don't necessarily want that. And yes, I understand that the folders are just an illusion. Yes, they're just a path to the file. I understand that. But are you suggesting that the file name should be the GUID? Yep, the file name plus date. Okay, I'll have to come back and think about that then, because I like the fact that it's got a name that means something, but I take on board what you're saying. Okay, so lots to think about, so I'll come back to that. Okay, but for now, thank you very much for joining me. It's been a little interesting foray into all things Azure. So, like I say, I've got some work to do on the back of this to set my own Azure up so that it's actually going to work. So I've got something to do there. And then I think we will either maybe use some of the code that Matthias has suggested here, which is the direct put into Azure Blob Storage, or maybe I think I'm still tempted to use some of the code in here because I feel that this might be more resilient to changes in the API, but that's maybe a discussion point for another day. But okay, thank you very much. For now, I'm going to sign off. Thank you for coming along, and I hope that this has been useful. I know it's been useful for me. Next stream will be on Monday evening. Haven't quite decided what the topic is yet. There are a couple of things floating around that it might be on. It might be a continuation of this, but I might have a guest on. We'll see how it goes, and we shall see how that goes. You specify the API version. Okay, that's something else to think about. Okay, right, I'm definitely going. Stop typing, Matthias. I appreciate your help, but I need to go. Okay, I will talk to you later. Thank you very much.